Welcome to episode 2 of the 25-mile drive. I'm Jake Wilkins, and I'm on my way home. I wanted to talk today about dirty jobs. Not really dirty jobs, but I don't know. Let's call it like grunt work. You know, at any place of business or type of employment, there's always some kind of really crappy job that somebody has to do, or that everyone should collectively do a little bit so that no one person gets stuck with it. I'm talking about things like taking out the trash or wiping out the inside of the microwave after enough people have used it without covering their food or something. It's all gross in there. I'm talking about sweeping, or if your company isn't big enough where you can have like a janitorial staff come in during the middle of the night, then it probably gets stuck on somebody that works at your company, having to do those kinds of things. And I'm thinking about it today because I build houses for a living, or I manage the construction of houses for a living, and if you can imagine, if you've ever driven by a construction site, or if you've ever built a home yourself, a construction site is a very dirty place, and it does not take long to get absolutely out of control. It can go from being immaculate one day, as immaculate as a job site can be, to absolutely destroyed and disgusting the next day. And it just depends on how the contractors working on the house that day, how they decide to act, and if they want to clean up after themselves or not. And so what happens is it just doesn't take very long to get out of control. And we don't have so I work for the company that I work for I'd say it's medium size. We do a good size we do a pretty good number of houses every year, but we're not so big that we have full-time people that help clean up job sites, or that every once in a while we'll have like a high school kid or somebody that's out of college for a few months. They'll help out with the job sites and stuff. But let's be honest, nobody can do that indefinitely. It's a pretty terrible job to clean up job sites all day, perpetually into the future, with no hope of moving on to. So when we don't have a high school kid or somebody that's back from college, working to clean up the lots, then it often falls on us, So I'm a superintendent for a home building company in Idaho, and so I manage the job sites. And it's technically not part of my job description to sweep a garage or pick up trash, but it's just something that needs done. So if we don't have somebody doing it, then it falls on me and the other superintendents to keep our job sites clean. And you'd think that it wouldn't be that big of a deal in construction to have people probably expect there to be trash and stuff all over the place. But man, it's night and day different if it's kept up and at least managed, and organized or whatever, than if it just is let loose, and isn't controlled and is just a big nightmare. It just feels different when you're on the job. I don't know what to call it besides it just has this different energy. Like, it just doesn't feel good to be working on a dirty house. And it makes it so if the house is already dirty when somebody shows up, then the next guy says, oh, well, it's already dirty, so I probably don't need to clean up my mess either, or not clean it up as well as I would have if it was clean when I got here. And so it's just this snowball effect. And so they just get, so man, if you're not on top of it for even one day, or a week or two goes by, it looks like a bomb went off at the house. So when we don't have a helper, then it's on us to keep it clean. And when I first started, I found that frustrating a little bit. Call it my pride or whatever, but I started out as a carpenter, and so just like a manual labor guy, and I got pretty good at it. But when I got hired as a superintendent, I was like, oh sweet, like I don't have to do that stuff anymore. I don't have to sweep a garage or pick up pieces of wood, or I just can manage other people that do that stuff. But I was in for a rude awakening when I quickly realized that No, that was going to be part of my job, and that should be part of everyone's job. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, is that at some point, it should always be part of your job to do the grunt work, and what's really cool is that Alturas, the company that I work for, Alturas Homes, has established a culture that is very that way. And what I mean by that is so long story short, Alturas is somewhat of a subsidiary of another bigger company, and the guy that runs all of the companies, he's the managing partner of all the companies, so he manages, companies worth over $100 million combined, well over $100 million combined. He said in a company meeting a while ago that if the day ever something, I don't remember exactly word for word what he said, but it was something along the lines of, if the day ever comes that you think that you're too good to pick up a piece of trash, that's the day that you don't belong at Alturas. And I just thought that was powerful. Here I am thinking that I am above it, and the managing partner of the entire umbrella, says he's not above it. So that was kind of a wake-up call for me, to know that, it just has to be done sometimes. And so I remember after that meeting, I showed up to this job and it was just destroyed. It was such a mess, and part of that actually is my fault, and is the job site manager's fault, because as I mentioned before, if you don't keep up with it on day one, it just snowballs. So if you let it go for a few days or for a few weeks or whatever, then it just then it falls on you to clean it up. But say our tile setter goes to a house to work on it, and he leaves the garage a mess. If I go to the house that day and I see that there's tile stuff everywhere, and I call him and I say, hey man, you probably just forgot to clean up, but you left a big mess. Can you please come back and fix it? Usually they're really embarrassed, and usually they did actually just forget. It's very rare that someone leaves a house a mess on purpose. People actually do. People think that construction workers are nasty and dirty and whatever, but there actually is a lot of integrity and pride in craftsmanship and workmanship, and so people know that they're not supposed to leave a mess. And when it's tile stuff, obviously everyone's going to know that the tile guy made a mess. There's no hiding that he made the mess or not. It was him. So usually they're embarrassed. So if I were to find that mess that day and call the tile guy and say, look, you left a mess, can you please come pick it up? He'll come probably that same day. He'll come and clean it up because he knows he's supposed to. And if you do that every day, if you keep on top of it, it's very manageable and it stays clean, because and then on the next, and then he's probably not going to forget on the next house. He said, oh, I don't want to get called again to go back to clean up a mess that I forgot, so I'm gonna remember on this house. So it starts this. It's just this whole cycle. So if you're not diligent, so that's what I'm saying. So it's on me. So we often create our own extra work, I guess, or our own nightmares. We often create our own problems, and that's definitely the case for me when it comes to cleaning job sites. But anyways, so after the managing partner of our companies said that thing about not being too good to pick up a piece of trash, I was sweeping I showed up at this house that was just destroyed, and I at first I was really mad at the contractors that had worked on it, and there was such a big mess that you couldn't even tell who. Like, it was everyone. It was just everyone making a mess. And you could tell that some people had tried to kind of clean up their mess, but because there was so much other stuff everywhere, they couldn't. Because a contractor will clean up their own mess, but they will not usually clean up someone else's. So if there's already a big mess, they'll probably do the minimum to get their mess out of there, but they're not going to go above and beyond to pick up somebody else's mess, because time is money for them. The more work they get done in a day, the more they get paid. So they're not going to. They'll do their best work on their own stuff, but they're not going to clean up after somebody else. So that's why I say if there's one mess that gets left, then it becomes 2 and then 3 and then 4. It just snowballs. But so I couldn't tell who made this mess. It was just everybody collectively, and I was really mad. Like, I was furious. And it probably took me 2 hours to clean up that house, which means that those were 2 hours that I wasn't spending managing other job sites better. So I'm adding all this stuff up, and I'm frustrated and I'm mad, and then I thought back to the managing partner's comment about not being too good to pick up a piece of trash, And I was like, well, man, how can I be okay with it? Like, how can I calm down? I was not happy about how I was, I don't like being angry. I have a really bad temper, and I don't like that about myself. And so I don't like it when I get all worked up and upset. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, well, how can I accept this as okay? Like, how can I have a good attitude about this? And I started thinking about the average person that actually does clean up, that would like sweep a garage, like how much we pay the kids to, the high school kids, or the guy that's out of college for a few months or whatever. Like, how much do we actually pay them? I think we usually pay them like $10 an hour, something like that, maybe 12. But it's not crazy money because they're just cleaning up trash essentially. So it's not a high skill job. It's just something that needs done. And so they don't get paid. They get paid okay, but not super well. So then I started thinking, I was like, well, crap. Like, what's my time worth? And currently, I'm not rolling in it, so I don't care if you know what I make. And I don't care if you know what I make. So I make about 3 times that currently. So now I'm thinking, man, So then I started thinking, I was like, man, this is a waste of my company's money. They're paying me 3 times as much as they would pay somebody else to do this dumb work. But then I keep thinking, so one of the benefits of doing this grunt work is that you have lots of time to think, because it doesn't take very much brain power to do it. So you can, so I'm thinking through all this stuff while I'm sweeping this garage out and picking up trash and stuff. So I go from being mad about it to then thinking that Alturas is, spending 3 times as much as they should be on having a job site cleaned. But then I start thinking, I was like, man, this has to be done though. And we don't have somebody else to do it, so I have to do it. So it's an expense that I guess, my company has to foot. So it's just a necessary evil. Like, we just have to do it. It has to get done. So then I start thinking, so my mindset's kind of shifting. Like, it just has to get done, and there's nobody else to do it, so I need to do it. And then I start thinking, man, I bet there's probably not another person on earth that gets paid this much to sweep a garage. I've got to be the highest paid garage sweeper on earth. And then I started kind of laughing about it. I was like, man, I probably am. I can't imagine there is another person on earth that gets paid more than me to sweep a garage or to pick up trash. And so then it turned it into a funny thing. I shifted my perspective a little bit, and it turned from doing this really crappy, dumb work that I shouldn't have had to be doing into this kind of funny situation where, and maybe there is somebody that makes more than that to sweep a garage, but if it's their full-time job, I'd be pretty surprised if they're making more than $30 an hour just to pick up trash. But who knows? There could be somebody out there that does. I don't know. But I just wonder how many people, what about the managing partner of my company? So what about when he bends down to pick up a piece of trash? He's probably making, I don't know, 10 times as much as I am. In which case, I would not be the highest paid trash picker upper. It would be him. He's probably making 10 times as much as I am. So if he picked up a piece of trash, he's probably getting paid a lot more than I am to do that. But the point is, whatever you do, whatever you work, whatever your job entails, there's probably some kind of grunt work that you don't like doing. That is the case all the time with my job. But if we can find a way to just kind of laugh about it and accept that it needs done, and that we're not above it, it's not a task that is beneath us, then and we just do it, we can find a way to be cheerful about it and just get it done. And so I haven't perfected that, having that perspective, but I'm working on it. And at least for cleaning up job sites and sweeping garages, I still drag my feet a little bit, and I don't love doing it, but I am a little more, but I do have a better attitude about it, and that's important because when you have a bad attitude about something, you let something get to you and get under your skin, it just drags everything down, and it's not good for anybody, and yourself included. If you let those kind of things get to you, you're the one that suffers. Nobody else does. It's just you. And so, anyway, I just think that whatever way we can find to accept and smile through the crappy jobs that just have to get done, the better off we'll be. Well, thanks for joining me on my way home on my 25-mile drive. I'm Jake Wilkins, and I'll see you next week.